I'm Ashley Morton, and this is my story of peace. So growing up, I was raised in a home that my parents didn't really go to church very much, and my grandparents would take me and my sister Jordan to church. We didn't have, like I said, the role models of what a good Christian home was supposed to look like. We went to church with my grandparents, and it was just because we were told we had to. I knew who God was growing up. I knew who Jesus was and that kind of thing. But just always had this sense of, I'm not enough, or I'm broke. Anybody that knows me knows that I was a full-on daddy's girl from the time I was born until even now. Yeah, he's been a big part of who I am and in my life as well. He, like I said, came to us one day. He came to church here actually with us on a Sunday, him and my mom, and then we went to lunch, and while we were sitting at lunch, he looked at us, Daniel and I, and told us that he had, for one, quit drinking alcohol, because he's always told me my whole life he was going to die sober. And then he, told us that he did get right with the Lord. And then, so about a month later, he got real sick with COVID, and then he went into the hospital, and he was in the hospital for 56 days and on a ventilator for 51 days. And then, he passed away 9 days before my birthday. Spiritually, I always grew up, like I said, knowing who God was, knowing who Jesus was. I believed in God, and I believed in Jesus, that he died for me, and, all of that stuff for my sins, but then just never had really fully, repented of my sins. And then one Sunday, back in October of last year, Pastor Chip was preaching on the book of Jonah. And like I said, I've compared myself a lot to Job, but never really compared myself to Jonah. And I'm sitting in church that Sunday, and there was just a flood of questions that just came, and I just needed answers to these questions. So I turned to Daniel. He didn't answer them. One of my questions was, how do you know that you're right with God? And he just looked at me and he said, I just do. And that wasn't enough. I went to Katie and I was like, how do you know that you're right with God? I just do, and that's not enough, So I text Pastor Chip and come on Monday morning. Daniel went to work Sunday night and works throughout the night. And then I don't tell him where I'm going Monday morning, just come and talk to Pastor Chip. And, we went over the 3 circles and talked a little bit about, childhood and, where I am with my walk with God. And, and I believed in God. And I, like I said, and I just knew that God was where I want, that I wanted God in my life, but never had repented. And so Pastor Chip threw a curveball at me, and he's like, okay, stop right there. We're not gonna pray together. And I was like, wait, what? I was so confused. I was like, but I want to. I want God to be in my life and to be, I want to follow him and want him to lead and guide where I go. And so then he's like, well, you've told me your story. You've told me that Daniel's been a big part of that. So go home, wake Daniel up, talk to him, see what he thinks about your situation, and then go from there. So I leave the church. I drive home real fast, literally jump on the bed in tears, wake him up. He, of course, thinks, something's wrong. And I was like, hey, I need you to get up right now. And he looks at me and he's like, what's wrong? And so I tell him, I'd been talking to Pastor Chip. I didn't feel like I was fully saved, I guess. And he's like, what? That's crazy. But, he came to the church with me. He got dressed. He came to the church with me. We came to the sanctuary. We prayed. And then instantly I just felt this peace over me. I felt like I knew who I was in Christ. I knew who I was as a mom and as a wife, and that type of thing. And as a daughter, like, because being a daughter to my dad and to my mom, like I said, I was just never really enough for what they wanted or their standards. But being a daughter in Christ, I am enough. Life has become so much easier and just so much, honestly, peaceful. I know that I said that before, but like, I can't stress it enough. The peace that I have with Jesus is a peace like no other.